Hey guys, did you know Fairy Tail was bad? Yes? Everyone does? Well, now you can have your unbridled hate fully supported by this analytical breakdown at the low cost of $32. Or free if you're in the first 10 billion viewers.
We're just jumping into this shit, okay?
Craftsdwarf is an anime analysis channel that over the past year has uploaded 34 videos at the time of this recording. Oops. Oh, that's not hot. That's not hot. So this video may be like a year late. Better late than never, I suppose. To put this in perspective, I had more subs than Craftsdwarf when I started making this. Big oof. This went from a constructive shoutout for a smaller channel to me riding the coattails of success. Well, let's crack a cold one to selling out and start with the criticism. Oh, and quick thing, me a year ago didn't make this clear in the original script, but I am going through Craftsdwarf's older content, not to critique him, but rather for other YouTubers who might be able to relate to some of CraftBrew's older videos. Clear? Cool. Also, I like this cut I made, so I'm keeping it in. With his main claim to fame being his analytical analysis of the do's and don'ts of shonen anime and manga. This video is going to be analyzing, critiquing, and breaking down the channel and content creator of Craftsdwarf. The first video uploaded onto the channel was Your Lie in April review/analysis. Published on July 12th, 2016, the video itself serving as a good marking point of the content's progression over time. The video clocks in at 25 minutes with very subpar audio quality and delivery, while the script itself could easily be shortened by about 15 minutes and then on top of that also have some fatty words cut out. If you think that's crazy, then I direct you to a video uploaded 6 months later that basically condenses this video to less than half the time. Comparing this video to the latest or even the next video is fairly night and day, meaning even though the early content started shaky, it eventually found its footing, literally the next video. If you were looking to do the same with your content, audience person watching this, the primary thing that probably helped the production of basically the newer version of this video was simply just having watched more series, and coming to a better understanding of the medium, while also, of course, knowing that saying less is actually saying more. What makes a fight for me is the first real entry into the shonen analysis genre. It sets up the expectations that Crafty Boy has for fights and then is used as somewhat of a base to work on while writing other scripts in the future on the same subject, purposefully or not. The next entry into this is one of the strongest videos on his channel even to this date, Rising Stakes in Action-Adventure Shonen. This video does a great factual breakdown of the power-ups rolled out over the course of the first half of One Piece and why its slow burn until any major progress is made is an exceptional use of pacing and payoff. He later goes on to write about the pacing in Hunter x Hunter, if the hockey system weakened One Piece's action and undid a lot of the first half's pacing, and eventually did a breakdown of the world building in the Skypiea arc. All of these videos build on top of one another really well, making each stronger than if they were on their own. These, coupled with the breakdown of Fairy Tail and all the things that could go wrong in the production of a shonen series, leads me to believe by next year Crafty Boy could have a comprehensive deconstruction of the shonen genre. Two videos I would like to point out now are the fanfiction plea and Children Are Annoying. In terms of the self-explanatory plea for more fanfiction, I found this video to be one of the more interesting videos on the channel, even if it comes off as somewhat half-baked. The idea of defending and building up fanfiction in an analytical way, talking about the legal, moral, ethical, and artistic merit and demerit of them is a fascinating idea and a basis for a few ethical conversations I have had. Sadly, the video only skims the surface of the conversation, and even then, the delivery of the points seemed like it needed more time to be developed. But take what I say on this with a grain of salt, since I do have a personal stake in this. However, I would like to see more videos like this since it seems to be in his wheelhouse, but it would need more research and scripting before it could get ironed out enough to become a great product. As to the Children Are Annoying, this is the only video on Dwarf's channel that actually discusses the deeper themes of a series. Now, let me explain. Let's say there are 3 levels of a story: the concrete/tangible aspects, the surface level/tangible themes, and the intangible themes. Surface level themes are just the main ideas delivered by a narrative. They are fairly easy to uncover and most would not disagree with them. Hope and despair are surface themes of Danganronpa, whereas intangible themes are the ones that have to be worked for, that will vary greatly from person to person. Generally, no two people will have the same perspective on the intangible themes a story presents. Does Made in the Abyss Need Lollies uses concrete ideas like pacing and character reaction to drop tone/build relationships. March Comes In Like a Lion and Your Lie in April are surface theme reviews. Most would agree with the ideas presented and not much digging has to be done in order to achieve the results. Children Are Annoying adds a layer to the themes by comparing the difference between how you react to other kids and how you react to your own. This is something the author probably did not intend to have as a main aspect of the story, but it easily could be the main takeaway from it. Currently, there are a lot of videos discussing the ideas in a series, but there are hardly any that actually add to the ideas presented in a series, expanding what one's understanding and appreciation for said series is. A good analysis-based channel has to do all three, even if one is not the focus. Broadening horizons in writing and varying content are reasons enough to analyze the facts, ideas, and the abstract. The Uncovering series is probably the second strongest aspect of Mr. Dwarf's channel. I always found that the videos that he analyzes something I was less familiar with to pack a larger punch, possibly from the nature of his scripting. A solid breakdown of the good and the bad of a series while also expanding people's knowledge by bringing up lesser known franchises just suits the channel really well. The overview of Infinite Raviosa? Beep. The overview of Infinite Revosa and Joshi oh wow, why are these the things that are named? Why? Beep. The overview of Infinite Revus and Joshirigaku was detailed enough I felt like I had watched the show without having any prior knowledge of it. Uncovering the warm and wonderful film Summer Days with Ku demonstrated the strengths of the film really clearly in a way that piqued my interest. I would also consider the Chaos series analysis to be in the Uncovering series, since they lack popularity and also have the same strengths of representing the pros and cons of a lesser known series with relative depth and occasional nuance. Under the Dog, Flip Flappers, Your Lie in April are all fairly well put together criticism videos. Well, the second time around for some. Also, I feel like I'm missing another series that he might have critiqued. Now, this is somewhat difficult to put into a proper way, but I feel that generally, criticism-based videos seem to work better than the praise-based ones. One distinction I would like to make, however, is that when the good qualities of a series are treated like a hidden gem, or an underappreciated aspect of a series, then they generally come off fairly well. But it would seem when neither of those two are part of the scripting process, then praising a series seems to turn into a bit of lip service. Almost like every time you finish saying something harsh, you remember that it has a lot of positives as well, and I have to point them out now. Even if it is for a different reason, a lot of the praise comes off as somewhat forced, or probably, more likely, just not as well delivered as the criticism or defense of a series. It reminds me of a quote someone said, "I learned how to write critically from consistently getting in flame wars over the years." It really does kind of feel like that would aptly explain the discretion and quality between the three talents. Oh wow, Danganronpa, remember when I said I was the man for this critique job? Well, I'm probably the only person crazy enough to read all of One Piece and Danganronpa. So, here we are. Going back to my point on deeper analysis, this is a good example of a series that could have benefited from it. The analysis of Danganronpa 1 was on point, and I agree with almost every point made. It's a lot more set up and technical than the other entries in the franchise, so a straight breakdown of the main themes was a solid starting point. And the overview of how terrible the anime adaptations are makes for some great content. For some reason, Crafty Dwarf just seems good at destroying bad media. The problem with the series comes in with the fact that the Danganronpa 2 analysis is more or less the same video as the first one. I feel that does a disservice to this mini-series and the franchise itself. Having two videos in a row with very little difference led to a bit of viewer fatigue, whereas the game Danganronpa 2 is much more open to interpretation and has a lot more room to really dig into extra stuff happening in the narrative. It would have been great if he used the last video as a platform and started really going deep on underlining tones and story beats, spending less time setting up what the last video had just done. Why do I feel it takes a while for Dwarfy to get to the point at times? But overall, I agree with almost every point made in these videos, and... Why do I feel like there's a part of this video I disagree with? Oh, it is time to throw down! Never before has a man made such a disgrace of everything wholesome in this world. And the fact you did so with only being half a man truly impresses me. You think I would just take this lying down? Well, you're about to get a rude awakening. I will come down with you with enough power to crush 1,000 angry weeaboos. When I'm done with you, your shape will be the same as your channel icon. Minus this little nub here, because that would make the procedure much more difficult. In other words, I'm going to smash you into a square. This upcoming weeb-off. Anytime, any place. I'll take you on and end your foolish tirade once and for all, proving that this is the best girl. So come at me, unless you're scared. Because this man just wants to see me squirm, he keeps uploading more videos as I am writing this. Please, send help. Every time I think I'm almost done, he makes more stuff. Help me. As to the video itself, it was solidly put together, probably because it was made like 10 months after the last ones, but it had solid points both breaking down the manga and some of the main problems with the series, and even its fans as a whole. With having a bunch of longer videos in recent times, I feel the length of this one was on point, concise, clear, condensed, and of course, korfafrafoloker. Now, you might wonder what that word I just said means. Well, so do I. If only the video was a minute longer to get that sweet, sweet YouTube AdSense revenue and extra marketing potential. This is going to go into a little bit more of the technicals than these first segments should, but I feel a few more well-placed jokes along with a skit of some sort could have helped with both quality and made the video just a little bit meatier. That sounds contrary to the praise I gave for the length, but even though it was a good length for the amount that was discussed, just one or two more points along with a slightly better action curve could have brought the video to a higher level than where it currently resides. So overall good, just a beat short of being great. Now that we're done with Oh no. Well, it seems the journey never ends, truly, this is the 7th layer of hell, but luckily this video is completely different from every other video on the Craftman's channel. This time around, there is a focus on game mechanics rather than story. Clap clap to you, sir. More than just a one-trick pony, now a 1.5-trick pony. The overall breakdown of Despair Girls is fairly on point, especially the retrospective on the fact most of the plotlines are null and void at this point, and the overall message is clouded by unclear motives and pacing. Again, a solid breakdown of the story, if not on the little generic side. The main focus of the video was on the mechanical failings of the game, but a little bit more discussion on the effect the game had on the franchise as a whole and discussion on the characters and the impact seen and unseen could have given the video a bit more longevity. Right now, it might be perfectly fine, but a couple of months from now, better videos will come with more information and easily displace this video from the relevance it currently holds. Now, as someone who tries to study and analyze game mechanics, I found the actual analysis of the game mechanics to be lacking. Nothing stated was wrong, but it was all incredibly basic points that anyone who's ever seen more than a minute of game footage could have come to. This is kinda strange from my perspective. Editing gameplay footage is way easier than anime footage or manga panels. It's a perfect opportunity to really go in depth and give plenty of examples because of how easy it is to actually write and put together videos like this. I mean, it's not a huge loss overall, but it really makes the main focus of the video almost pointless. Now, I'm not harsh enough to say this is the weakest video put out in the past few months, but I easily could see most people coming to that conclusion based upon how weak the core of the video is. It's hard to say make better game analysis, but that's not what I'm saying. The point I want to get across is when stepping outside of a comfort zone, that is an opportunity to do things you normally could not. The fact this video is just a normal Craftsdwarf video with less knowledge and experience behind it weakens the channel overall. Not for an average viewer, but for one who is already invested in the Craftsdwarf narrative. This might sound overly harsh, but the idea of wasting time and the potential of a project just really hurts. More than just one video not holding up, it's a waste of the experience that could have been gained to make every other video better. Whew, now that we are finally done with Danganronpa, let's... No. No! No! No, I wrote a whole thing on podcasts and his side channel, but like, that shit was gay, yo, so I'm just gonna keep a couple of the more informative parts. For being a YouTuber, he struggles with articulation and improvisation. I can only imagine how much extra work it must be in order to record one video. Every single mess up while reading from the script equals more audio editing, faster exhaustion, and could easily lead to fatigue while going through the actual editing process. Even though I said I could only imagine, I actually don't have to imagine at all, since I myself have a speech impediment along with some light dyslexia, but that's less of an issue than the speaking problem. It took a really long time. I had recorded easily hundreds of hours of talking, streaming, continuously practiced voice exercises, I had to voice act for dozens of characters, I even had to sing while recording a few times. All of these eventually led to me being able to get one page of a script recorded with only 2 tries. Those 2 times, however, do add up over time, and personally, I need to continue to work on presentation a lot. I think many people underestimate the power of vocal training and the importance of being able to articulate a proper point quickly on YouTube. Just one video randomly blowing up that you misspoken could lead to a ton of headache later. Take it from me. It can also lead to resent buildup towards that content and even one's own work, especially if you upload a video that took no effort and was terrible, just to see it become the most successful video on your channel. Again, this is a more technical aspect, but I would take time out of every day to practice voice work, or to try projects that take your voice out of its comfort zone. Either way, results should start to build up. Unless this is worked on a lot, it easily may lead to years of extra work in the future, trying to match output rates that just are out of reach.
Oh boy. Here we fucking go.
We have finally made it to the important stuff, and the only reason anyone is watching this. What is a tirade and why is it as good as it is bad? 7 parts long with over 110 minutes of content, nearly 2 hours to watch all the way through. It is an actual micro example of what Craftsdwarf is. I didn't need to say anything that I just went over. All of the information and more is represented in some form during the tirade. The only reason I'm not just breaking this down is because I wanted to show that most of the strengths, but more importantly, the weaknesses my boy Dwarfy portrays are deep-rooted. Beyond just a simple mistake or habit, they are actual parts of the core of the human. Not the channel, but the man behind it. After watching all of his content and rewatching a whole lot of it, I can safely say Ryan, this guy here, is smart, or at least clever. He clearly has the ability to come up with jokes and every once in a while has his personality shine through in such a way that you can see that he actually has some real talent and charisma buried deep down. He has made a lot of videos over the past year with plenty of improvement shown, but he clearly has a very long way to go before he captures even the base level of talent that he has on display. I don't think talent comes in one set amount, but rather in multiple set amounts over time, and currently he is a distance from reaching the current milestone. I almost feel a desire for growth in a direction that he himself probably does not fully understand yet. That's enough rambling and foreshadowing to the future for now. Let's focus on the tirade itself. The greatest weakness of the tirade is a clear lack of planning. Most likely the tirade is spurred on by the ending of the manga and Best Guy Ever's video on it. So that leaves a small window of time to actually go from planning to production on a project of this size. Beyond just that, it also leaves very little time to build up a stockpile of work in order to reference, organize, and foreshadow later events. Nevertheless, truly the biggest problem with the series can be summed up in just one word. Tirade. It was just a tirade all along. Much like the title implies, the actual series was a tirade, but instead of the title being a bit of tongue-in-cheek, it really just ended up being an overly blown, underly planned series of ideas loosely fitted together. The first episode is all over the place, bouncing around with no real through line outside of a loose comparison to One Piece that could have easily been summed up in just a segment of an episode rather than one of its own. Episode 2 showed a real knack for throwing out hot fiery memes with some of the most solid commentation you can find on the channel. Breaking down the magic system was a solid idea, but it should have been paired with a general breakdown of all the systems in place in the world of Fairy Tail. The pace and memes were good, but only focusing on magic for a majority of the episode hurts the good aspects by having it overstay its welcome. If instead it broke down every rule the world has in place and continued to bounce around until the laws that govern the world had completely been dismantled, then the final message of the video being about Fairy Tail representing that people are born with greatness and don't earn it would have been much more impactful. Episode 3 is probably easy to guess from the pattern thus far, but the tackling of the female characters could easily have been combined with the tackling of all characters. The overall message is strong, but maybe just a little too much time focused on it. Honestly, it could have been half the length and still had relatively the same impact. Episode 4 is good. Were you expecting something else? No way. This is some incredibly solid analysis that at this point in the series felt earned, a strong pace with good content. The only way to improve it is if it were injected with some comedic elements at the start and end. But that would be weird with how the tirade is currently formatted. Which brings me to my initial point. This should not be a 2-hour-long 7-part series. This should be a 3-part series at about 20 to 30 minutes long each. A tighter narrative could be formed, a more impactful build into execution, and a chance to work on detailed, longer videos that would boost abilities in production and scripting. Most importantly, allowing for what I would consider to be truly a great series that perfectly deconstructs an entire artist's career, with comedy and heart mixed in to tell a compelling narrative from start to finish. That is what I want Craftsdwarf to strive for. That the next big project is something that would blow the Fairy Tail tirade out of the water. Although
Top 5 funniest moments in Fairy Tail
was incredibly entertaining in its own way, if the script was a little tighter, this truly would work really well, but as part of the tirade, probably not. It doesn't really add to the narrative of the series overall that much, but it could be a great standalone piece that is supported by the tirade itself. Although part 6 was so fucking funny in comparison. Clearly, it was improv, and really the only way to get better at improv and editing improv lines is through practice. So, do that. Literally, just every once in a while make an improvised video. Improv is one of a YouTuber's strongest capabilities, but a lack of it will just lead to frustration and inability to follow through with most plans. A hot new show releases, improv. A live panel, improv. Important news comes out that needs a response now, improv. It is possible to just script everything, but let's be honest here, neither of us wants that. Well, that's the end of the tirade. Now we can move on to, wait, what is this video here? Oh my gosh, it's not terrible! Finally, we have come to the magnum opus of the tirade. I want everyone to think back to when I said this should be a 3-episode long series. This would be one of those episodes on its own. The editing is snappier and creates a clear image of what's being discussed. The content of the video breaks down an entire long-running series in just under 30 minutes, while still finding time to tear apart some of the largest pieces of Fairy Tail's and Mashima's work as a whole. This is actually on a higher level than anything else on the channel. Even if it's simply because of the fact it's a huge climax to a couple month long series, it still ended up being great. This is what I want to see. If every episode of the tirade was this solid, then it would be an incredibly well put together series. Keyword being if. For the next big project, I would want a lot more time put into thinking it out, to make sure each episode probably has a solid amount of content, action, comedy, and analysis. Literally all Craftsdwarf would have to do is figure out how to consistently make videos of this caliber, then start producing them on a weekly basis. If you started doing that, then it would only be a matter of a couple of years before you became a top analysis YouTuber. That might sound like a long time, but let me put it this way. In a matter of 4 years, a channel could go from Toaster Mike mumbling about some sort of problem a guy had with a show most people didn't even like anyways, to being compared to the top members of this platform. That is insane growth that I personally would love to see. That's kind of the point of this. Not as a hit piece, not to just point out flaws, but to make sure that this channel, and any other channel, can reach their potential. Even though some of this content is a year old at this point, I feel as a career path it is good to define the differences of pre and post tirade. Anime is unrealistic? Is a well put together script on a straightforward concept. It doesn't need anything fancy to deliver the core points. The idea to use more comedy for a script like this is a good one. However, the comedy throughout has a problem. When a joke comes out, it has a slightly slower timing. Now that would work for other scripts, but the jokes here just don't end up landing. Because generally the pacing of the script is slower than most, meaning that generally timing of jokes needs to be adjusted, and since jokes heavily rely on timing, most of them ended up fairly flat. Dissecting the plot device character is generally a strong script with good explorations of some more basic narrative-based concepts. In fact, besides maybe tightening the pacing, it's a very strong basis for further discussion. It would be interesting to have a follow-up video either following other narrative archetypes or further exploring how the plot device character can be used. I would not call it great, but good with the potential to be improved upon with a little elbow grease. Tomorrow, Yesterday, Joe. Ah, you too are a man of culture, I see. This video has a certain punchiness that makes it really stand out among the rest of Dwarf's work. It is fast, concise, and still delivers a decent amount of information. However, with that punchy nature, it also highlights some of the weaknesses within Dwarf's writing. The video had great context for the points made, but the content itself felt lacking. It really only delivered a synopsis of what the series' themes are and how they differ. This lack of adding to the themes of the narrative with further analysis or with making an argument for something that is not inherent to the source material has been present in Dwarf's scripting from the start. I still find this strange, since Dwarf has written material of his own. He has written fiction already, so he should be able to easily transfer that knowledge over to his academic writing. To break this down with an example, while writing your own story, you try to make it so the reader doesn't know what's going to happen next. Not in the sense of surprising them, but rather just in the sense that the narrative is being delivered in such a way to provoke thought that otherwise would not be there without it. It is to give the reader a new or varied perspective from the one that naturally enters their head. When writing academically, the goal is much the same. Present ideas that are interesting and that can be learned from. If the only ideas being presented in the work are inherently obvious in the content of the source material, then it's not inherently bad, but it certainly is not good. A good anime adaptation properly delivers the same feeling of the source material. A great adaptation delivers even more than what the source material has. So even in this video where the script is punchier and the content delivered works, it still is overall weaker than a video that is less tight and makes less good points, but adds more to the table. A good way to overcome a struggle like this might be to try to go to the extreme end of the spectrum. Try to make a narrative into something completely new and different. Dwarf has experience with fanfiction, why not try to make an academic type video that nearly borders on the line of fiction? Now, as I said, this video is a good example of some of the weaknesses in Dwarf's writing. Besides the content, there's another weakness on display. The prose on display is too weak. Now, I'm not going to hit you with a Magnus Carlsen and say too slow, too weak, because as stated, the speed was good. However, when breaking down the word usage and information delivered with each line, it becomes weak. I would say one way to improve upon the strength is to slightly change syntax. Every sentence leads to a conclusion. That is fine, but it'd be good to have some sentences start off with the conclusion and work backwards. To use Joe as an example, right now the writing feels like a series of jabs. Sure, you can win with only throwing out safe jabs, but to have a well-rounded fighter, or script, you need to mix in a hook once in a while, in the form of a literal sentence hook. Along with that, uppercuts are needed once in a while as well. Generally, the thesis statement is considered an uppercut, but even then, that can tend to be on the weaker side. The thesis needs to be bold and make an impact. Even starting or ending pages with uppercuts can be good as well, forming a strong sentence with a good amount of information delivered in a strong way. They take more time to write out generally, but they add extra life to the work and keep the consumer engaged with the narrative. They're flashy, take more stamina, and can backfire, but they are still necessary to throw once in a while, especially to an audience that doesn't expect it. Now, I'm not going to comment on the A Craftsdwarf Critique, because that would be way too meta. This brings me to one of the main weaknesses I have found within Crafts writing. Most scripts lack the most basic reason for existing. It would appear that most were born from a place of trying to write something, rather than having something worthy of writing about. No matter the editing, or the research, or jokes, or personality, or charisma, if the core aspect of the written word does not contain a base truth, then nothing can fix it. What message is trying to be sent by any of these videos? Why is it they need to exist? When looking at the fairy tale tirade specifically, it becomes clear to see. When an audience member sees the title, one question will pop into their mind. Why does this person think fairy tale is bad? They would expect a video series working off of the foundation that the story is bad, whereas the video series itself spends all of its time working towards the basic conclusion that the manga is bad. It's the completely wrong start point. It feels close to actually putting forward interesting criticism when Craft speaks about the mangaka behind fairy tale, trying to understand him and his circumstances. But such little time is spent on it and such basic conclusions are come to that the whole thing leads to nothing. To put it this way, if a friend asked you why you didn't like fairy tale, you would give him the fairy tale tirade. But if a teacher in a classroom asked you to do a report on why you didn't like fairy tale, it would be a completely different result with different expectations. If the very core foundational level of why you are creating and the goals you are trying to achieve are unclear, then everything else becomes muddied, and it is easy to find yourself disillusioned. Even if the answer is simple, like to be the best there is, or to save lives, having something to guide you through difficult times is required to be an artist. I'm not leaving it there though. Craft's reflection on Luffy holds a core message behind it. There's a reason why it exists, and a moral to the story. It holds the core truth that Luffy needed to become stronger to be Pirate King, and I think even holds a slight reflection of reality. That a boy chasing his dreams of becoming a YouTuber has to be backed up by a man who is willing to face his own weakness and surpass it. If you can make one good script, you can make 100. And even if you can't, you can always learn. It's easy to become a YouTuber, or a pirate. But to take those first steps of self-improvement are incredibly hard. And to have the mental fortitude to face the world again is even harder. Sincerely, the man who will overcome, Ichiro Oda. Time to get into the nitty-gritty. Now this video is already fairly long, so I'll try to make this fast. First, I will use the closing discussion on the fairy tale tirade as an example. It's really bad. Secondly, I would learn more about audio editing. I would start applying an EQ boost to any and all audio, along with a condenser, of course. I would spend more time learning about other forms of analysis that I have highlighted as a weakness. Even if it ends up resulting in slightly weaker videos for a short time, learning how to write in other styles, tones, and with other talking points would go a very long way. A thing that would help both the Craftsdwarf channel to grow and help the quality to start increasing faster is a real solid effort at maintaining a schedule. It doesn't have to be a lot, but even something as simple as bi-weekly uploads would help a lot. It would also make a transition over to full-time content creator easier. The slowness between uploads is a huge failing at the moment. Weekly uploads would not necessarily be needed, but a quicker output rate should be something that needs a lot of time spent on. Right now, the skill building and catalog development just feels too slow. Most likely 3 uploads a month could reach a sweet spot in both these categories. So first get a schedule down you can consistently accomplish, and then add on to it until you're uploading 3 videos a month. I would also try learning a program like After Effects in your spare time, along with Photoshop, just so over time you can be building skills in these categories that will become vital later on. I also think learning some of these would do more than just boost quality, but also eventually lead to faster production rates. A piece of more nebulous advice that over time will become more prevalent is that at the moment, this channel really doesn't have anything unique to offer. I'm not saying that's a huge deal right now, but learning some more unique skills or styles would be needed to grow into a proper artist. It can even be something that interests you that you already are learning about. Animation, skits, comedy, editing, just something to set the channel apart and bring the content up to a higher level. Of course, everything in moderation. Don't let that sort of pursuit consume you, but don't be fooled into a false sense of security and think it's not necessary. The tirade was great for growing as a content creator, and I fully expect more to come in order for growth to stay optimal, both as an artist and as a fully supported channel. And for the love of God, man, either start posting daily discussion videos on your second channel until you can talk good, or never post a video like the tirade's closer on the main channel again. Looking at that video is like looking at a poor cropping of an image. It would have been better without it being cropped at all. I would also highly recommend some form of further education, whether it be online classes or just continuously learning from study material and videos. But I can tell that less time than optimal is spent on just learning new things. I know it's like eating your vegetables, but the thing about that is every time you do eat your vegetables, they do usually taste pretty good. And you can always put sauce on them or cook them in a different way. Vitamins can also taste good though, plus protein shakes can be used. But I prefer just using natural foods and not supplements. My only question now is, when did this stop being an analogy? Holy shit, this is bad, my dog! Please fix now! First, tags are not meant for single words. Think of tags as the same thing as what people would type into the search bar. Things like Fairy Tail Review, One Piece Analysis, Fairy Tail Tirade, not individual words. Especially words that don't have anything to do with the form of content that is actually being made. Here's a shot of tags of my Sakamoto video for comparison to what you should be looking for. Keep in mind that I personally would never use the word theory, but that was what was driving search volume, so I plastered it all over the tags. Next! Get Social Blade and vidIQ. Start looking at other people's tags and find trends. And once you have fixed every one of your older videos' tags, check and see which ones are ranking and not. Note, ranking refers to where it places within the first few search results. Next, fix your descriptions. They should be written like mini blog posts, along with having tag and title optimization. There needs to be the use of character names, titles, and other similarities between the series you are talking about, the tags, the title, and the description for optimal SEO. But of course, tag stuffing doesn't work. It has to be read naturally for the algorithm to pick up on. A quote from one of my descriptions. The classic anime Ashita no Jo, or Tomorrow's Jo, really can show the power that a single moment in a person's life can have. Both Jo Yabuki and Rikishi Toru's lives were forever changed because of just a couple simple moments. It reads naturally and works multiple names and titles into it, along with words that appear both in the title and the tags. Fix this going forward. Always remember, impressions, click-through rate, watch time, engagement, conversion rates. The order of importance. Now, since I can't see your click-through rate, I can't say if it's good or bad, so check it. If it's not around 10%, it's not good enough. If it's under 5%, then drastically change your thumbnail methods. Look at the videos with higher click-through rate and try to create more titles and thumbnails like those. Also, look at the ones with lower click-through rate and realize the mistakes that were made with the titles and thumbnails. Surface level analysis leaves much to be desired, but has its upsides as well. A lack of a mission statement holds an artist back from being able to actually succeed in the long run. The main keys to success come from education. Learn how to write by pushing up against your limitations and trying new things. Improve speaking by stepping outside of comfort zones. Improve your marketing by studying the market and mimicking what others are doing. The best way to grow a channel and as an artist is consistent content creation. I am not memeing about Chiaki, I have a very particular set of skills and I will end you. Anime is gay, but that's okay. There's really only 3 replies the man of the hour can send. 1. An overly long comment defending his content while missing the point of the video itself. 2. Accepting my duel to finally decide once and for all if Chiaki is best girl or not. Spoilers, she is. 3. Actually take something away from this video and we have a good cool guy exchange, like thanks for the support and I'll see you on the YouTube battlefield. On the other hand, the viewers of his content only have 2 responses. Either A, they don't watch the video, or B, leaving an overly long comment defending his content while missing the point of the video itself. In the end, we're all going to die, think before you post, but really everything is meaningless so it doesn't matter anyway. All that matters is being a happy good person trying to improve. Oh wait, I've just been banned on YouTube for hate speech and harassment. Never mind. Now let me pass the outro over to Past Me. Wow, this video was a long time in the making. It took a lot of analysis and even switched over from one channel to another. In that time, Craftsdwarf blew up, so instead of looking like a nice guy helping a smaller channel, I look like a corporate shill trying to ride the coattails to the top. Always a plus. Real proud of my boy, you deserve all that growth. Just remember, I'll always be there to tear you down if you step out of line. Thanks for watching this Writing Corner YouTube critique segment. My number one goal is to help people, and to make sure that I can help boost up the separate mediums of art I partake in, even if I have to take it one step at a time. Subscribe to my boy Craftsdwarf for some quality YouTube content, and maybe send him a couple bucks if you're feeling generous. Every bit helps, I'm sure. Plus, I hear he, like every other human, likes money. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.